welcome to We're So Bloody Early. My name is Jake. I'm 33 years old. I'm a husband and a recent dad. This show is going to be a focus on Bitcoin and how our journeys to this amazing new asset class has affected our lives. I personally have been lucky to work as a broker through my life, an investor, and a couple of failed startups behind me. I'm very excited to start this new project. And these are my two great co-hosts, Matty and Jigs.
Hi guys, I'm Matt. I'm a 35-year-old father and husband, massive lover of sport. I'm an aerospace engineer come entrepreneur. I've been running my own engineering consultancy now for 5 years. I have a diverse range of skills across multiple industry sectors, and that's now led me to my new love, Bitcoin.
And I'm Jigs, 41 years of age, husband, father of three. Worked in the cash and transit industry for 20 years in a labor-intensive job. Recently retired for about a year now. I'm a stay-home dad and a hybrid trader.
Together, we're the co-hosts of the We're So Bloody Early show. In the future, you'll expect to hear from some special guests that we get along to talk through their experiences. Hopefully, we'll be creating some educational content that brings our friends and family along on this journey as well. And we hope you enjoy. Always reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome back to another episode of We're So Bloody Early. Excited today to do a bit of a debrief session, having had a conversation with our first guest, Mr. Steve Courtney, who is a particular hero of our co-host Jigs. So I'm going to stick straight to Jigsy and ask him some questions about that. Jigsy, how was it talking to Steve this week? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hero, yeah, well, look, I definitely look up to him. He's definitely taught me something or shown me something that I didn't know I could do or that existed. So yeah, for someone to have made such a huge impact and influence on my life and completely change the trajectory of where I thought my future was going and send me in a completely different opposite direction has been, yeah, it's been huge. And then I don't know if you guys know this, but I was a little bit starstruck, but that's totally understandable when you're meeting someone who's just giving you this new lease on life and this sort of this power to lift your family up and your family's future, which is just huge. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
And Matty, do jump in if you have any questions at any point.
Yeah, well, I was going to follow on by saying my sincere apologies to our special guests and you, both of you.
Yeah, you were too important to turn up. Sorry, guys.
Oh my God, to think that I'm half hour delayed here comparatively and not be able to get the time zone right. Geez, puts a bit of a question mark on my intelligence, doesn't it? So, but in saying that, yeah, obviously, and listening to Jigs' story in particular and knowing the impact that Steve has had on him and I want to call it his broader community beyond his family, it was a landmark opportunity for We're So Bloody Early because people like Steve have changed so many lives, as he's mentioned in the interview. You know, he's minted, I think the word was, many millionaires and Jigs being one of them. You know, how privileged are we to have a real life case and a student that can pass on his wisdom to us. So as Jigs said, rewatching it, there certainly was a little bit of nerves from Jigs and I loved it because it was raw. But as you pointed out, Jake, to have the opportunity to chat to one of his mentors was great to hear the conversation flow and get a bit of an insight to how Steve thinks as well. So yeah, job well done. Apologies to all again.
Yeah, he's a very calming. He's a very calming person. You can even tell when he's talking that he doesn't get. Well, we did see a point where he got a bit of emotion, which was shown when he started talking about the feedback he gets from his students and those stories that he talked about later in the episode. But yeah, he's just calm and
it was good. I'm glad we saw that side to him, I have to say, because I was like, We're 25 minutes into this conversation. He's been the most calm man
Oh.
you've ever met. And he keeps talking about controlling your emotion. You're like, wow, you must meditate for like 14 hours a day or something. This is unbelievable. And suddenly, I think the description was, that's what really gets my juices going or something.
Yeah.
About educating other people towards financial freedom. It's really cool.
Well, I'm going to add something further to that. I mean, Jigs, how did you feel when he applauded you at the end? You know, as he mentioned, his community know yourself, Jigs, and I mean, that must have been pretty touching. Maybe not so much live, but on rewatching it, I imagine that you may have gone as far as shedding a tear, mate, because you don't get compliments like that very often. So that was pretty special.
I'm not very good at handling compliments, but lucky for me, he's shared a few of my reviews in throughout the last 2 years on his channel. It was YouTube channel, on his episodes, halfway through an episode or towards the end of episodes. So I kind of gloated in those to my old man, but yeah, it was nice to hear it from himself. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it's nice to know that the efforts I've done haven't gone unnoticed.
No, and we're picking up on them as well, and hence starting this podcast and learning about all of this together. So there was one point that I particularly liked that I wanted to bring up, which is talking about teaching someone to fish. And actually, at the end of our episode, you put the quote down wherever it comes from. But Jigsy, can you talk us through how important you think it is to learn how to fish versus being given a fish for the day, and describe that thought process?
Well, you know, like you said it, how he does his courses and that, and now he's got people that don't want to go and learn, and they just want the indicators. They just want something to tell them when to buy, when to sell. And you become dependent on someone else by doing that. And what happens if that fails? What happens if he disappears or whatever? You're reliant on that. And when that goes, now what? Whereas, you know, like with Mark Moss, I subscribe to his newsletter. And so when Mark says, Mark will do all the research. So I pay X amount of dollars a month. He will do the research on what is he's recommending is a buy, and he will suggest a buy, which that will be my first entry point. And then I'll keep an eye on it, you know. And then if I get a buy signal through Steve's teachings, I'll then add to my position, and then I'll look for my exit positions. Whereas Mark might say, you know, guys, we're going to get out of this position. But if my signals aren't signaling that, you know, then I'm going to hang around for a bit longer, because I have a strategy and I know when to, you know, reel in the line. So by depending on someone else, if you missed a sell, like someone saying, okay, let's get out of this position or get in or whatever, now what? Whereas if you know when to get in, you know when to get out, you're more alert to that. And also I think it's important to learn the skills to do it, because now, you know, I've got a 6-year-old that I've been teaching this, and I wish I wish my old man had known this, because he could have taught me this at 14. I would have been a millionaire by the age I was 20. But, you know, I'm now leaving a legacy because I'm teaching her something, you know, which I think is really important. Because it's one thing to make money. It's another thing to learn how to make that money work for you. Now I know how to do that. I'm not reliant on someone else to tell me how to make that money work. So look, it's the same as crypto and storing it on a ledger, on a hardware with, you know, cold wallet, and keeping it offline. There's people that want to do that. There's other people that want to have Celsius where somebody custodies for it. And then there's someone else who would want Commonwealth Bank to custody for it. Now there's all these levels, and I understand that there's people that have
Wash your mouth out with soap, young man.
But it takes all kinds of people to make the world. If we were all ledger people, the world would be boring. You know, you need all these different layers to make to make the world interesting. So you have to accommodate all these different things.
Actually, there's one thing there, Jigs, that I might throw at Jake for a sec, which ties in, is that I guess listening to Steve and yourself broadly for some time now, learning to fish, I interpret that as diversity of skill set. and that you can independently go out, no matter the conditions, and bring home a feed. We've spoken offline about the ability to make money during both a bull and bear market. And now having a great host, Jake, with that diversity mindset. I know, again, we've had some chats offline about the broader crypto space outside of Bitcoin, which I'm sure we'll delve into in further conversation as our series go on. But listening to the likes of a Steve and a Jigs for some time now, Jake, and getting to learn a bit more about Steve, the thoughts on that diversification and Bitcoin and how that all kind of gels together for someone like yourself who, rightly so, proclaims sort of Bitcoin maxi type of approach, whereas someone like Steve looks at it as a different angle, and as does Jigs. I'm keen to get your thoughts a little bit about how you interpret Steve and Jigs learning as the sort of months have gone by.
Great question. Thank you, Matty. I mean, the short answer is it's incredibly impressive. For over 10 years of my life now, I've been interested in investment, and I am guilty, in a sense, of outsourcing the responsibility of my investment strategy to other people, whether that was through a wealth manager or a real estate agent or, you name it. There's a number of different options that I chose. And that's the complete opposite of teaching someone how to fish. That's like, okay, I'm not equipped to manage this effectively. I don't want to take the risk myself. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to give it to someone who is regulated and informed and willing and able to offer me the service. Now, some of the issues I've had with that in hindsight are they get paid regardless of performance. So, a wealth manager takes a 1% fee per year. A real estate agent gets paid every time you buy a property or every time you sell a property. A mortgage broker gets paid when you buy or sell a mortgage, or you purchase a mortgage off someone. The people that help you, renovate physical property, like they get paid once for the work they do. None of these people have any link to future performance. So although they're interested in selling you the concept of, protecting your wealth or growing your wealth, they're not going to get paid if it doesn't go well. And so I think it's just a really interesting and refreshing take on actually taking full responsibility for your financial choices and doing it in a way where, clearly Jigs, in just a matter of just a few years, has equipped himself with some skills that are changing his life. And I personally am going to go further down this rabbit hole and follow him. He's been a great influence to myself, and I will do Steve's course. I'll sign up at some point.
Maybe I'll donate.
Yeah, or maybe. Yeah, thank you. Really get my head around this. And perhaps now I'm 10 years old. When you're 20 years old and you get your father's dead, you sell your family home, you get given money. You're just out of university. You're such a young man. You don't know what's going on in the world. And so maybe it's taken 10 years of taking the decisions that I've made to get to today and go, now I need to take full ownership of this and take responsibility for it. And look, I've made some mistakes, don't get me wrong, but perhaps that's what builds and helps you through your life. So that's more, I guess, around the mentality side of things that I see. And I find that really inspiring and exciting. I'm 33 years old. Well, hang on. So in a matter of years, if you follow this same route, maybe by the time I'm Jigsy's age, like 40, I'll never need to work for anyone ever again. That's insane, right? Fucking bring it on. How do I learn how to do this? So that's like point number one. And then really around the Bitcoin maxi side of things, it was funny because the conversation, he was like, where's all the top talent going? And I was like, what's he going to say? What's he going to say? And he goes, Ethereum. And I'm like, I'm not sure I agree with that. That was his take, right? The point is we have one brain, one set of knowledge that we've gained in life to date, and therefore our attention is fixed in a certain place because of the amalgamation of touch points and where it takes you. I personally am infatuated with the concept of separating money from state and disrupting central banking. Like, why the fuck does the government control our money? And why are they allowed to print shitloads more of it whenever they want?
And then suck tax.
And my money doesn't change, right? It's clearly the most grotesquely unfair criminal system that's been sold to us as a good thing. So that really fires me up from a societal perspective, from a philosophical perspective. It's going to be an extraordinary revolution. Something like Ethereum is, to me, an extremely exciting startup project. Now, they're not far off $1 trillion or whatever. What's Ethereum worth today as a market cap, Jigsy? They won't be a trillion. What will they be worth?
Be close, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's not a startup, right? It's an extremely valuable, project. But it's run by a centralized team of people. They changed the rules, right? This move from proof of work to proof of stake. It's $500
million, Jake, just for your own interest.
$500 million. All right, thank you. It's evolving.
Sorry, $500 billion. Sorry.
It's $500 billion. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ethereum is evolving in a way that is extremely exciting for the future of blockchain. That there's no doubt about that. They're going to create some interesting stuff, but it's not disrupting money. And that, to me, is what I find so exciting and compelling about Bitcoin. So yeah, look, I guess it's one of those things horses for courses. I'm intrigued as to how, day one, to me, I've really gone down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and that's because I've spent 5 years owning this stuff. I now trust it as an asset class that actually can be a store of wealth. And I'm putting, a lot more as a percentage of my net wealth into this asset as fast as I can. But once you've hit 50% of your net worth in Bitcoin, and you live in the house you live in, and you can't put anything else in, and you spend your monthly salary, how do you get more Bitcoin? Right? This is a challenge that we all need to try and solve. And so what I see Steve's teachings helping Jigs do, and Jigs has then blended it with Mark Moss's, tips on what to buy, and then also the Celsius network and getting leverage. And these are things that Jigs has done independently. He's able to accumulate more Bitcoin. And I'm like, that is seriously exciting.
Yeah. And also,
so it then becomes a case of like, what risk reward do you take? And actually, I do genuinely believe that this idea of toxic Bitcoin maxis is a very, very valid kind of religious zealot type thing that's going to help Bitcoin survive.
Yeah.
But is that also perhaps the detriment of seeing other strategies function very well, where actually, fuck yeah, maybe as a Bitcoin maxi, you could argue that you do want to do what Steve Courtney's doing to accumulate more of this stuff. And it's interesting to think that he's just trading in and out, right? He's never using these things as long-term holds. And so what initially brought me to this, it was so interesting, was Jigs is using this to accumulate more Bitcoin.
Yeah. So in going back to what he does is, like when going back to that question about fishing, right? If you just go and get the indicators and you pay for the indicators, great. But if he's telling you to come in and go out and go in, that might be within your 12 months. Now you're paying capital gains. Because what I've done is I've gone and taken the hybrid strategy, which is generally an 8 to 14 month period between entering and exiting a trade, right? And I've just tweaked it a little bit. So it leans more towards 12 to 14 months. So it gives me a little bit more room to leaning towards that capital gains after 12 months. That's halving my capital gains. So, you put on $1,000, it becomes $10,000. You take profit after 12 months. For that $9,000 profit, you only have to pay capital gains on $4,500. The other $4,500 is yours. Taxman can't touch it. And so I've just tweaked it just a bit. So it gives me that opportunity to capture more gains for myself without having to give it to someone else who didn't take the risk,
And I think that's where I can see, to all of our listeners, the thing that I love about the dynamic that we're working with, and Steve coming on our show at this point in the series, is the understanding of Bitcoin for me is paramount. Going back to our initial discussion of what is Bitcoin essentially, and going through as far as how to accumulate it through to how to store it, if you're lucky enough to do all of those things, which maybe some of our listeners aren't. But listening to Steve for myself gave me some inspiration about how, whether it's $50 a week, I think he mentioned, you're not too late. I think I want to really reiterate that no matter what someone's strategy or where they sit in all of this, the recommendation, I guess I was still getting out of Steve, was accumulating Bitcoin is still a very, very important strategy for the long-term preservation of wealth for anyone's family. And again, not financial advice, do your own research, but the sentiment of our show is that Bitcoin is going to have its place to play, in our opinion, well into the future. And be that a maxi approach or be that a hybrid approach of Jigs, there are many paths to Bitcoin accumulation, and that's where sitting back as a noob in the industry and listening intently, I can see value in learning how to fish. Because even for myself, our show's not necessarily about alts and whatnot, but Jigs and I in particular have had many chats, and there's been some stuff there where I've fished incorrectly and gone against the great man, and I've also gone ahead and made some decisions myself and fished fairly well as well, and that's in a short period of time by understanding the intent of a strategy. But that's the key points that I wanted to touch on with our listeners, is that we're not here necessarily to tell you that there's one way and one way only, and I don't think we'll ever do that. But we want to give you guys a broad understanding of the different methods of approach to accumulate. In this particular series has been about Bitcoin, and there's been some great information to listen from Jigs and Jake over the entire series, and now to have a special guest like Steve to basically, really come along and add merit to our conversation gives me great pride to think that accumulating Bitcoin and the messages that we've given is hopefully going to give a lot of our listeners an opportunity to preserve some wealth moving forward. And that's the part that excites me, is that we've done that in this first series in particular. And, can't thank Steve enough for the opportunity to get his opinions as well.
Well said, Matty. Well said.
There's just one thing I want to touch on that Steve did, and through his hybrid strategy that I was taught. And so what I've done is I've tweaked it to try and capture buying in a bear market, because there is a saying that says you make money in a bull market, but you become rich in a bear market. So I've tweaked the strategy where I purchase in a bear market, and I use a couple of other indicators from lookintobitcoin.com and stuff like that to capture that bear market, and then use Steve's signals to capture that, and then hold for potentially, it's almost 3 years, almost to the day, where you start then exiting out of that position and start taking your profits again with the look into Bitcoin indicators with Steve's signals, and then start exiting out of the position. But he talked about how, I'll give you an example if you don't mind me sharing the screen.
Yeah, go.
Let's just see.
Was there a lesson on how to shop for jumpers at all with?
Well, I just want to talk about the elephant in the room that you weren't here last week. That's all.
Just to bring that up.
All right, here we go. So this is so based on Steve's signals. I won't dive too much into it, but I just want to point out something to you. So there was a buy signal back here in 2018 below the 2-year moving average of Bitcoin. So there was a buy signal, and then there was one. So I always either buy if the price is touching the green line or below it. So I had one here, one here. We had a fourth one, which was just an anomaly because there was the March crash. So let's just say we had 3, right? So let's just assume that through those 3 buy signals, you accumulated 10 Bitcoin over that time, right? Just want to point out something. So, so you had three buy signals through that time. You bought 10 Bitcoin. Now, what Steve is talking about is taking. I'm just trying to find it here. Here we go. So you have your 3 entry points, 1, 2, 3, and Steve says, "Okay, cool. Let's risk some of that Bitcoin, and we're gonna try and grow it quicker than Bitcoin. We're going to put it into Ethereum because Ethereum is going to move at a faster clip. So let's say we took 10 Bitcoin, we took 1, so we're risking 10% of our position, and we're going to put that into an ETH Bitcoin trade. So if you look at here in 29th of December 2019, we had a buy signal to move some Bitcoin and buy Ethereum, right? So we took one Bitcoin, we moved it there, and we bought some Ethereum with it, right? In that time, from then till now, right, Bitcoin has appreciated by, well, sorry, we had a sell signal here. So we'll say the 15th of May, 2021. So in that time, that's 503 days. So it's over a 12-month period. So great, we're going to capture the 50% capital gains, right? And we had a sell signal up here. So in that time, Bitcoin appreciated by 557%. So we'll say 550% in that time. Ethereum appreciated by 3,116, so 3,100% in that same time. So that's massive, right? But you can't say that your Bitcoin grew by 3,000% because they both moving at the same time. Just Ethereum is moving faster. So if you compare them, right, that Bitcoin you put into Ethereum has appreciated by 360% more than the Bitcoin did. So effectively, if you sold here with that signal and you sold that one Bitcoin that you put in down here at 29th of December 2019, 500 days later, you took that one Bitcoin that's now grown 360% against Bitcoin and moved it back, you've now got 4 Bitcoin. So you moved it all back, and now you got 4 Bitcoin, as opposed to just leaving it there and letting it grow by.
Now you have 14 Bitcoin.
Now you have 14 Bitcoin.
The net asset value.
Sorry, you've got 13 Bitcoin because you took one.
13.
So you got 13 Bitcoin. So you've got 3 more than you originally started with, and that's how you leverage these. And if you do it with, like Matty went up crazy. So you could take a little bit. You could take 25% of a Bitcoin, so 0.25, put it in. Now you might have 2 Bitcoin out of that. That's the thing. You just got to work out how much you want to, and Steve teaches you all this, and how much you want to risk out of your Bitcoin stash or your portfolio. You might want to only do 5% and do half a Bitcoin, and then you've just gained yourself, what's that, 1.5 or 2 Bitcoin, it's just things like that. Sorry, I'll go back to
one thing, just leave that chart there for a sec, Jigs. I might just ask a typical noob question, right? Is with all the fluctuations, like the zoomed in fluctuations, I don't know, let's pick a point. Is that sort of between February and March 19, like that sell signal? Just up.
This one here?
Yeah. Are we able to zoom?
Yeah, it's Feb, March, yeah.
Are we able to zoom into that, or is that a bit difficult?
No, you can't. Oh, no.
So just, if you move your cursor away for a sec,
Yep.
there looks like there's a bit of red, few candles around there, and there's a bit of green before it. The skeptic in the audience may say, well, is this all a bit of crap, and you've just drawn some nice little arrows on a graph to make yourself look
well,
good.
I don't draw these. These are based on 3 indicators that he uses that I can't disclose, but
yeah. These
3 indicators all have to meet specific levels. So one has to hit it, the second has to hit it, the third has to hit it for it to be an alert. And then one of the indicators then has to hit another point for then you to get a confirmation, which then you'll get a confirmation sell or a confirmation buy triangle, or alert, signal like this on the screen. So those don't just happen just for no reason. They happen because other things are happening in play. And once those happen, whether the market is being oversold or overbought. So right now, when you get a sell signal, it's because the market is being overbought. And we do opposite of the herd, like Steve says. So when everyone is FOMOing in and buying and buying and buying, and it's being overbought, a sell signal will say, okay, time to get out. So it's just, all it's doing is telling you to do the opposite of what the herd's doing.
And so the reason I raise that is obviously, Jigs, we have many chats. I think you've been, not to be lewd, but you've been literally out in a pub midnight and had an alert and actioned a purchase from memory. So just for our listeners,
That's funny you say that. Sorry, that's funny you say that, because someone asked me the other day. They said, "Oh, so you're retired? So you've given up the 7 till 5 job, or whatever it is, 9 to 5 or 7 to 5, I used to call it because I work so early. But I said, yeah, I've given up the 7 to 5, but I've traded it for the 24/365 because the market never sleeps.
No, and that's the one thing that's really important. Again, just
Shout out to Merv.
Yeah. My privileged learnings is that Jigs works awfully hard, or has worked awfully hard to be able to produce something under Steve's tutelage, which allows him to operate 24 hours, 365. And this is something I'm sure as the years and the series go on that we will elaborate further into as much as possible with our viewers, because there's a great story behind these charts. And the master, Mr. Justin Jeffrey, has a wealth of knowledge under that indifferent jumper, I'll be polite, that I'm sure we'll continue to learn from. So it's not, those charts aren't a load of crap. They're real.
And also what I did was, also the way Steve teaches you, depending on your personality, whether you are a like built-up energetic person and you want to day trade, which is I highly recommend it. Don't do that. But there's people out there that have that personality that think they can chase that, and it feeds their juices. I don't know, but and I thought I was a swing trader, but I quickly learned that even a swing trader, you don't make as much money as what a hybrid does. If you want to play the long game and you want to be super duper patient and not have your finger in the pie, well, then you just buy and hold, which is perfectly fine. You make plenty doing that too. But even with all of the strategies he teaches you, at some point during the day, and it's also works for the for people that have that time to go on their computer and check when the day closes and when it opens and stuff. Unfortunately for us in Australia, depending on whether we are in daylight savings or not, the market closes at 10 or 11 o'clock in the, during the day. At that time I was working, so I didn't have time to go and check the charts and check everything and see what signals are coming up and blah, 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 because I didn't have the strategy, the signals. So what I did was I saw someone from another country, paid him to code for me, input the signals, and then I got them. So I shared that with Steve. And when Steve saw them, he went, "That's not bad." He goes, "But please don't share that with anyone because that takes away what I'm doing." And I'm like, that's fair enough. But that was my tick of approval that I'd done something extra to take what he had taught me and just give it a real good fine tuning. So it's really helped me with those notifications and stuff. But now Steve's developed something where you can just go buy the indicators for yourself.
Yeah, so just in summary and just very quickly, sorry, Jake, mate, in terms of a broader picture is that, for example, the chart that Jigs shows you is a opportunity that Steve will, is a method that Steve potentially teaches one of his students if they want to be like a Jigs, which is a hybrid trader, which is maybe not a set and forget. It's 8 to 12 months, preferably over 12 months. He does accommodate for those that want to trade daily. So again, there's appetite, whatever your appetite is, there's opportunities for people to learn across that whole array of risk profile, for a better word. And that's the part that, again, really want to get across is there's not only the method to learn how to fish, but there's also a strategy in place that is super critical, because for a lot of noobs out there to see volatility of 20-30% in a week, you've got to have I was going to say balls of steel, but whether you're male or woman, you've got to have nerve, because if you don't have a strategy in place, there are too many people that I hear and see that see red, sell red, rather than see red, buy red.
Buy the
and that's really why being taught how to fish is super critical if you want to be in this crypto space long term. If you think you can fish without a fishing rod, good luck to you. It's a really dangerous approach, in my opinion. So whatever your
you also need to learn position sizing and your risk versus reward and things like that. I mean, a lot of people come in, I did it in the beginning as well. I came in and thought, well, I've got 10 grand, I'll just put $1,000 on each trade. No, hell no. Like, no. and what he teaches you is that you don't need to put that much, you can put much less, and based on the indicators and the signals and that, and you can grow it a lot quicker without taking as much risk. So there's lots of opportunities here. Raoul Paul talks about how the opportunities here for the average man ahead of the institutions is phenomenal. And I think people just need to just take, $50 a week, just put it in and just sit and watch it grow over time.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, let me jump in. So I've still got a bunch of questions on this Steve interview, but
Well, we can
given
go.
we're a bit pressed for time, I think we'll segue to the next bit. But in summary, Jigs, well done, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you for getting our first guest on the show. Well done with making the decision to sign up for Steve's trading course. Obviously, Jigs is a walking, talking proof of the fact that it's not a scam, and he has been taught how to fish. So congratulations, mate. It's absolutely epic. And as the man who's pulled together the three of us to do this project, Matty and I, I'm sure, are very much in agreement that we're super impressed with what you've learned. And thank you for starting to teach us as well.